Hi, and welcome to the Wellness Project series, and today's presentation is on balancing sleep. It is brought to you by Health Promotion 8-Wing CFB Trenton, and my name is Lisa Rafasi. I will be your facilitator for today's content. So as we take a look at the outline, the following 6 things are things that we're going to dive into. For example, we're going to talk about a definition of sleep. We're going to talk about sleep deprivation, the benefits of sleep, how to make sleep a priority, creating a sleep routine, and the importance of practicing a relaxation response and some relaxation exercises just prior to bedtime. So there's a couple of statements on this next slide, and this is an opportunity for you to take some inventory on how you're doing. Do any of these statements resonate with you? And if so, here's a great opportunity for you to sit up and take note at some of the suggestions, some of the skills, some of the education that you're about to experience over the next few slides. For example, do you need an alarm clock to wake up? Do you struggle to get out of bed? Do you hit the snooze button? Do you feel tired and stressed all the time? Do you fall asleep watching TV? Or wow, have you ever fallen asleep in a meeting? Do you fall asleep within 5 minutes of getting into bed? Do you have dark circles under your eyes and you associate that with your lack of sleep? And do you rely on caffeine or energy drinks to keep you awake throughout the day? So if any of those resonate with you, here's an opportunity for you just to take some notes on the content coming up. So when we take a look at sleep definitions, this is just not so much a definition as it is a statement or a concept presented to us by George Carlin, a well-known comedian. He describes sleep as if it's a bizarre activity that for the next several hours while the sun is gone, you become unconscious, you lose command over everything you know, and then the sun returns and you resume your life. The Oxford Dictionary, however, it presents another definition. Sleep is a condition of body and mind which typically recurs for several hours every night. The nervous system is inactive, the eyes are closed, postural muscles relax, and consciousness is practically suspended. Now that's a definition that we align with. So ask yourself a couple of questions. How many hours of sleep do you need? How many hours are you getting? How do you know if you've had the right amount of sleep? And what are the signs for you that you're not getting enough? It'll really be important now to recognize that one person will be so unique and different than someone else. You might know somebody that can get through the week on 5 hours a night, and then you yourself may feel that you need 8. Or you know somebody who has to have 9 hours or bust. They just can't get through the week without that long sleeper approach. So just recognize these questions as more opportunities to reflect on where you are with this sleep behavior. So when we look at sleep deprivation, we see some pretty radical signs and symptoms of it. So for example, a reduction in attention or cognitive function, poor risky decision making, a lack of energy or decreased physical performance, a change in your mood. You might feel stressed, you might feel anxious, you might be irritable. And definitely we see some impairment to the immune system when we take a look at sleep deprivation. This slide gives us 8 consequences, and they're pretty profound as you read through them. Pretty profound consequences of the lack of sleep. Cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, weight gain, headaches and muscle aches, overall fatigue, mental health disorders, and pain. So really important to start to understand the impact on our health when we consider what lack of sleep can lead to. We're going to take a look at the Canadian population stats just as a benchmark, and then we're going to take a look at the CAF population stats and views. So when we look at this demographic of 18 to 64-year-old adults, 2/3 of our population are getting the recommended amount of sleep. 32% are short sleepers and 3% are long sleepers. When we look at the next age demographic up, almost half are getting the recommended, which leaves the other half not getting the recommended. And then when we gauge men and women and the percentages there on sleep quality, 43% of our male population and 55% of our women have trouble going to sleep or staying asleep. So what an important opportunity to just see where we fit into this. When we take a look at our views on sleep, and again, we're taking a look at the Canadian population from a statistical point of view, we know that a third of Canadians sleep fewer hours per night than recommended. We also know that we view these all-nighters, often the student population talks about the all-nighters cramming for an exam, but we view this as no problem. If we're behind on something and we need to stay up longer, we don't view this as a problem. Reducing our sleep time, it's often considered a short-term solution, and that as a population is a consensus. That is our view. We do consider cutting back on sleep as just a normal price to pay to be productive. When we look at the CAF community and we look at the concept of insomnia, we have a Reg Force personnel nominal roll of about 68,000, and 41% of our Reg Force personnel report experiencing insomnia. We also know the negative impact that that can have on mental health concerns, and this slide reminds us of the increased risk of suicidal ideation. This next slide talks about sleep deprivation and performance. So after 16 hours of sleep deprivation, there's a notable decrease in performance. When we get up to 24 hours, now we are likening that to being legally impaired. Our reaction time is actually less than when we would be legally impaired. When we're talking 28 hours without sleep, the performance is significantly impaired with critical errors. And then 5 hours a night only for 4 consecutive days will impair performance in a way that traffic safety may be compromised. So this slide reminds us a decrease in performance, the implication of a legal impairment function, the likelihood of critical errors, and the concept of a traffic safety concern. So now it's really reminding us, driving that point home on sleep deprivation and the concerns associated with it. This slide talks about sleep debt, a concept that you may have heard of before. And if you take a look at the example in A, that's hours of sleep needed per day. And for this example, we've gone with 5 days, 7 hours a night, coming up with 35 total hours of sleep. When we take a look at actual hours as an example that someone might get, and now it's 5 and 6 and 5 and 4 and 6. So that's over the week or the work week, 26 hours. When we subtract B from A, we come up with the sleep debt answer. And in this case, we're working with a sleep debt over a work week of 9 hours. Imagine going into your weekend, your 2-day off of the week time, and you, in fact, are in total sleep debt. So not a great way to start your weekend, but certainly not a great way to finish your productive cognitive performance, operationally high tempo in some cases, week of really going into sleep debt. Some good news, it's important for us to be motivated by the benefits of sleep. And this reminds us that we know sleep conserves our energy, it refuels us, it recovers us. It helps us memorize and learn, so it gives us that cognitive strength or that agility. It's important for emotional and stress management. It helps preserve our immune system. It helps to regulate almost all the functions of the body. And we also know that while we sleep, the brain removes metabolic waste that we produce during the day. So lots of great benefits of sleep. Now this graphic on this slide about power napping has been brought to us by YLM Sports Science. There are lots of governing bodies out there that have weighed in on the importance of a power nap. And this slide is just a great reminder to see the effect, the benefits, the positive impact that a power nap might have. And we're only talking 15 to 20 minutes. Some people are good with a 10-minute power nap. You'll see, as the graphic suggests, it's an easy way to get some relaxation. It restores alertness, restores wakefulness, reverses hormonal impact of a night of poor sleep. So enhance, restore, and reverse. Really important for us to recognize that the power nap is a very good tool to consider as you approach this performance behavior of sleep. So what does affect our sleep? We know our daily activity does, our exercise, our nutrition and our hydration. So for example, if you have a high-fat meal just before bedtime, that's absolutely going to negatively impact your sleep. If you go to bed dehydrated, that'll affect your sleep. If you go to bed overhydrated, that will impact your sleep. There's the consistency and sleep phase concepts that will affect your sleep. Any sort of screen time, stimulation, and arousal, that will impact your sleep. Stress and the lack of the management piece of stress. So if you're going to bed and your mind is ruminating and it just won't stop, and you're thinking about something that you have to manage, that's going to impact your sleep. And then lastly, sleep hygiene. And that can be anything from your room setting, the temperature, the lighting, the bed, the pillow, the noises. All of those things are considerations for your sleep hygiene and how it affects sleep. So what can we do? We like to take a full day approach to sleep. We like to think about it when we're awake, not just when we're about to fall asleep. We want to include exercises every day by sitting less and moving more. We want to prepare for sleep by having a relaxing bedtime routine. We want to absolutely be cognizant of our alcohol and caffeine consumption. Often we thought that drinking would help elicit sleep. Although you may fall asleep more easily, it interrupts those regular sleep patterns and then ultimately can negatively impact your sleep. We want to limit screen time before bed, and we absolutely want to listen to our natural cues. If it's 9 o'clock on a weeknight and you usually go to bed at 10:30, but you can't keep your eyes open, listen to your body's cues and just head to bed. Now, this case study, I want to jump right to the conclusion because I want us to recognize that overall, conclusively, this study is going to reveal that physical activity appears to be a flexible and effective approach for improving sleep in adults. So when we take a look at the demographic, we take a look at the dose of exercise, and I give you the opportunity to read through that, we're really only talking about improvements in sleep as we introduce or maintain exercise, and we're talking about exercise below the recommended guidelines. So this is not a huge effort that in fact yielded some great success. So you'll see that the case study talks about the demographic, an exercise training program that had positive effects on sleep quality, demographic middle-aged to older adults. The dose was below our recommended physical activity guidelines from our governing bodies. And in fact, over 10 weeks with about 135 minutes a week, we saw an increase in melatonin levels and then evidence to suggest that there were absolute benefits to sleep, and it improved sleep in the demographic for this case study. So there's other things that we can do in our environment, and now we turn to our training and operational context. So it's time for us to make revisions to existing training and policies to minimize the inconsistencies, make sure we're aligning with guidelines about optimal sleep duration. We want to provide educational workshops for line leaders on creating sleep plans that align with the research on circadian rhythms, to consider the sleeping environment, and to factor in the shift schedule of roommates or tent mates when assigned duty. We want to create standardized operational training policies across the CAF to increase sleep duration and quality, and we want to reduce the fatigue-related impairment. We want to make sure we link some of the surveillance data on mishaps to evaluate the role of sleep and fatigue. And we absolutely want to prioritize sleep into the reintegration policies to our service members when they go through that period of recuperation during which they're starting to return to normal sleep patterns. And we want to absolutely prevent the onset of chronic sleep problems that might develop well after that initial reintegration period. And lastly, as the slide suggests, we want to disseminate positive messaging about sleep as an operational imperative. Much like a vital sign such as blood pressure, we want to increase awareness and reduce the cultural barriers. So positive messaging about sleep. So take, for example, the graphic on power napping. It used to be that power napping was just not mainstream accepted skill that people thought were super beneficial for their sleep hygiene or their sleep patterns or their sleep dosages. And now we recognize that with the pacing of our workday, we have built in breaks in the morning, the afternoon, and lunch periods. And there's an opportunity to make the best use of that time if you need it, and if sleep debt is a concern, and or you are having some negative impacts from sleep. So positive messaging about sleep, and in this case, my example, positive messaging about the importance of a power nap. We do propose that relaxation exercises in anticipation of bedtime is giving you an opportunity to relax and also set the stage for what will be a good night's sleep. There are so many to choose from. We could look at meditation. We could look at scripting from a head to toe body scan where you are purposely relaxing your muscles. We could look at grounding techniques, positive self-talk, lots of relaxation exercises that does just that, help transition you from a highly performing workday, transitioning into a more relaxed state so that you can set up a very sleepful state. So think about a relaxation exercise that you might benefit from, and whether that's your workout in the evening, whether that's reading a book and slowly gearing down from your workday, whether that's having a hot beverage, listening to music, and then for some people, it's even scripting a meditation pattern and purposely when laying in bed, trying to elicit that relaxation response to set up bedtime, to set up the quality sleep that we're looking for. We encourage you over the next 30 days to take a look at the benefits of journaling your sleep patterns. So some things to consider: your quality, your quantity, how you felt the next day. Were there any negative impacts based on a poor night's sleep? How did the sleep hygiene concept work for you? Did you try a power nap that day? Did that work for you? Ask yourself a series of questions that gives you a picture of what your sleep patterns are like and if it's working for you. Is it a lifestyle choice that you need to place more emphasis on? Is your exercise getting in the way or not getting in the way of a good night's sleep? Nutrition, hydration, your stress management, your caffeine intake, all of these things and then some can be documented in your journaling, so you're given a really great picture of where you might need to place some emphasis. So a monthly challenge really about just understanding your sleep and if it's working for you. We're hoping that if you want to add in some positive change and you want to make subtle behavior modifications, then that this is an opportunity for you to have that snapshot and take a look at where those shortfalls or those weaknesses are and to develop and build on those. So on behalf of Health Promotion at 8 Wing Trenton, I thank you for taking the time to be reminded of some of these concepts of sleep. And certainly over the next 30 days, if you want to participate in some journaling, trying to take a look at where those weaknesses are, what's working well, what's not working well, what time of year, what period of the day are you feeling tired or fatigued. All of those things as you take stock to understand, to better understand how this lifestyle choice, how this performance behavior can really work for you and impact your health positively. We look forward to seeing you next month as part of the Wellness Equation series and our project that we're working with you in Europe. For those of you on aucun, thank you for participating today. And as mentioned, looking forward to seeing you next month.